things happen, and I'm still learning how to use OBS, and apparently you could tell because I've got the green screen behind me. And so, sorry about that. My computer popped up with the volume on and was driving me crazy in my ear. Today I have the wonderful BFF of mine, Mel. Her link is in the description box for Mel's Table Talk. I'll hand it over to her so she could tell you a little bit about her channel and her show. And I will share this out and let everybody know that we are live.
Hey guys, thanks for coming. It's a bit of a last minute thing for me. I just popped to the Discord and I was like, come live, okay. Yes, my channel's Mel's Table Talks. I've got another channel as well called Amber's Place. And on Mel's Table Talks, just do long discussions about a whole variety of topics with various different people. I haven't done anything on there for a couple of weeks, and I apologize for that. I've not been well, and I'm away next week, so I probably won't be doing anything more on there for another week or so. But please check it out if you haven't already, and subscribe. And I've got some exciting shows coming up in about a week's time. Okay. And I hope everyone is well, and everyone is happy, and everyone is coping well with these ascension symptoms, these ups and downs, these energy waves. They're pretty hard to cope with, but we just got to get through it. Back to you, Michelle.
Yes. I got an amazing compliment today from the wonderful Magi on a video I posted called Am I a Christian? And what I talk about in there is, Christianity. I talk about Catholicism. I talk about, Protestantism. And in each and every single one of these groups, they all seem to splinter off and they make these brick and mortar buildings. And as for being a Christian myself, and being raised a Christian, I would have to say that when I was in that brick and mortar building, compared to what I'm doing now, I would consider I am more like a Christian. I follow Christ. In the brick and mortar buildings, when I see that there are pastors with these mega churches with coffee shops and stores inside of them, and the pastor is living in a mansion, and they don't pay taxes or anything, they're tax exempt, all right. And then we've got homeless people and hungry people and people that need clothing. To me, a church would be someplace where we make our donations and it filters out to the community to bring everybody else up, not to line our own pockets. So that's kind of a little bit of what I was talking about in the video. I will link that, in this live stream after it is up, if anybody's interested. But I just posted that one today. And to get our honorable Magi, who, like I've said, has studied 6 different religions that I know of, and to have him, give me such a compliment, it was very humbling, and it warmed my heart. Just beautiful thing to hear. So, Mel, that was what that was about. I know you haven't had time to watch it because you just popped online yourself, and I just went and snagged you. Now, guys, I don't know how to use the OBS on Hangouts yet, so deal with my green screen, okay? But I got my Magi next to me, so I'm in good company. So, what is your thoughts on that? Mel, when you look at all these churches with all these different denominations, we can even think about, if you look at even Judaism, they had the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and they made up the Sanhedrin and laws and rules, and they wanted temple taxes while they're wearing all these nice linens, sitting in the padded seats, while they had people that in their day going hungry and without. As a Christian in our faith, that's part of our foundation. There is service to others. So when you put your money in the collection plate, you're not thinking you're going to buy the pastor a mansion. You're thinking it's going back out into the community to help those people that need it. So it's kind of shocking, when they do these, shows, and even look at that flood that we had, and all these places were opening their doors and bringing people in, even regular everyday people. But the mega church didn't want their church dirty, which could have housed, I think it was like 18,000 people. And under pressure, they finally opened their doors, but they didn't want to. So what is that telling us? What's going on with that noise? What do you think about that, Mel?
Gosh, where to start? Well, first of all, we've talked about it before. I mean, I come from the UK, and the UK is, I think, very different from the USA. We're a secular society. I think I read recently that only about 2% of British citizens attend church regularly. Um, and, people who talk about religion, I mean, even just talking about religion over here is kind of like a taboo subject. It's not something and you talk about. It's not something that's discussed. Um, it's if you do, you're looked at as being a bit strange. So I mean, I used to call myself a Christian simply because when you fill out the forms and it's just something you put down. I'm a Christian. It's just something you just always say. And it wasn't until I started learning more about Christianity I realized that I'm most definitely not a Christian. I don't believe my beliefs do not match those of Christianity. Um, and I think the problem is, I mean, I'm doing a lot of research back into the history of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, where it all came from, where it started. And the thing is, it doesn't matter which branch you're looking at, whether you're looking at any of the Christian faiths, any of the Abrahamic religions, basically. Um, and even if you go right back to its origins in Egypt and look at the Egyptian theologies, which was the roots of Judaism. If you go back to there, they're all the same. It was all about money. A lot of it is about money. It was a means of income for the kings, the pharaohs, the priest kings, whatever their titles were. It the temples, the Giza pyramids, the temples in Egypt, the synagogues, the churches, they're about raising money, and that's why religion and monarchy have been so closely tied for such a long time. And now, of course, in America, you've got religion and you've got your governance. The ties are the same because it's a very lucrative means of taxing the citizenry. And it's better than taxes because a lot of it is voluntary. And so the citizens willingly give up their wealth. And that's really, for me, what it's all about. I mean, if you take it all back, it's all about solar worship. It's cosmological worship. It's worshipping the sun god, the moon god, the constellations. Um, and whether you believe or not that these gods were ever real, um, that I don't think you can deny the fact that the application of that worship into these structured faith systems became very quickly about raising money, about lining people's pockets. I mean, people wanted to give up their children to be priests or whatever because their children would be fed 3 times a day. They'd have a roof over their head. They'd have clothes. They'd have education. Um, it's all about. It was all to me. It was all about raising money, and unfortunately, the church has become a self-feeding
Corporation.
organism.
It's a
Yes,
corporation. It's a
basically,
business.
that's exactly what it is. It's a business. And what's it? It was a pope or something. A very high person up in the Christian faith not that long ago made a quote that they can't run the church on prayers alone. They need money. And you whenever you get an organization that is very lucrative, that a lot of money is passing through it, that the people within that have opportunity to get great power and privilege, you're going to get a certain type of person that is going to get up high up in that organization. There's going to select for that kind of personality. And it's the same in the business world, in the political world, or in the religious world. So you're going to get a certain kind of personality type who tend to excel in those organizations. And whether you believe Jesus existed or not, and I do, I think I don't believe he was called Jesus, and I don't believe how it was portrayed in the New Testament is how it went down. But I do believe he existed, and I do believe his teachings, some of what's in the New Testament were his teachings. He did
There's
say
some blending there.
he was
There is
trying to
some
get.
blending.
Yes, exactly.
They
He
blended the
was
law
trying.
into they mix that in there. And when you pop out the other side of this
Yeah,
journey we're going through, actually you realize that you are free from the law because you understand who and what you are. I want to throw something
yeah.
else at you here, Mel. This is another
Go for it.
revelation that we talked a little bit about this before. But
Mm,
if you go to any country, anywhere in the world, okay, if you look at their foundation, their governmental bodies, do you not see that that was all brought from the Mosaic laws? That was one of the first thing he did was started putting people over to judge these, cases brought before them. And it seems like no matter where you go in the world, you've got the government, or worse than that would be a king and queenship, an oligarchy. But they still have they try to separate the oligarchy away and then have like their parliament, and which was run. But if you look at the basic foundations of the governments, no matter where you're at in the world, whether you are a religious country or not, everybody is following the Mosaic laws. They're in our lands everywhere. What do you think about that?
I don't know for sure that that's the case, but I'll take your word for it. It wouldn't surprise me because the Mosaic laws, which I'm assuming you mean about the commandments, Moses' commandments, um, they weren't really anything
They
new.
added to those. I think there's like 600 and something by the time they got done with adding. There was the basic 10, okay, which are, some of them, I think like half are carnal and half are spiritual, okay. But then they added, as time went on, even, Moses started having to rule on these matters that were coming up in between people and making judgments. Then he set up people to handle that for him because it was wearing him out. And that system began to take root. And what has happened is it's like everywhere it's taken root. It used to be a king and or a queen, and then they had their army, Now we've got laws and rules and judges and fines and fees and jails and police officers. Plus we've got military that, it's just, it's gotten to the extreme that it's like, there's so many laws on the books now. And just think when Christ came,
Mm,
what was there, 680 something laws? I mean, they were even telling them what shoe to put on first. It was that bad. And how many times they had to wash their
mm,
hands before they ate, and all these laws for everything. Okay. Think about now. There's so many laws on our books now that there's no way that any of us could know all of them. It's not possible. Attorneys have to look up all of these laws, even though they've got a law degree, they don't know all these laws. And we think about the government here in Congress passing law after law after law, putting more and more and more on the books. We are in, and a lot of people think that we're gonna get this mark of the beast, and we're the beast system and under the false prophet and the false messiah. Government is the false prophet. Government is that false messiah. Government is that thing that's ruling over us like we're beasts because if we were left to our own devices, we just, go nuts. It's not true, guys. It's not true. But I know we were talking about that the other day, and I thought on it. I was like, there isn't any place in the world that doesn't have some form, whether it's corrupt or good or whatever, no labels here, that doesn't have some kind of, and it stems back when I think of, Moses, going up to the mountain, and then all those laws got added to it afterwards by the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and it's trickled all around the world. So, I'm looking forward to a time. I say I don't pay attention to the government. Government doesn't mess with me, and I don't mess with the government. So, with that said, I know that I'm not going to go hurt my neighbor. That's not in my nature. And I don't think it's in my neighbor's nature either. People, with this, the one thing that I think that causes the most division in people is religion. And I'm going to be the I'm just going to say it straight out. I think Christ came to put away religion.
Mm.
He came to fight against it and tell them, he told them they were after their father, who's the devil, who's a liar from the beginning and a murderer. The law killeth. Okay. And he came to bring life. So, if you want to think about the biggest rebel, I'm following that biggest rebel because the truth is in him. And it is a freedom, this journey we go through. We pop out, the gifts are stirred up in us. We pop out the other side and we realize who and what we are, what we're able to do, and the huge heart that we have. We are all love and light. It's these laws that are the restraint or the pressing down on us, and when you're told not to do something over and over again, it makes you want to do it even that much more. So, I just said a mouthful, but I'm gonna give you a chance to rebuttal
Oh,
me.
right. Okay. Gosh. Okay. I mean, I would question that they're all based on Mosaic laws. I think that all the civilizations stem from Sumeria, as far as we're aware, and I think the laws, including Moses' commandments, are based on the laws back through Sumeria. So I think that's why most nations have a similar code, like a similar set of moral and spiritual laws,
Oh, Mel,
or
don't
rules.
argue apples and oranges. It's still the
No, no, no,
law.
no. I'm just saying what I think about what you said.
You're supposed to
But
laugh. Laugh, honey, laugh.
okay. But I think, see, I don't know. I don't think we have enough information about that period in history to actually know whether there was separate secular laws to the theological laws that have been recorded and what they might have been. I would have thought there would have been a whole ream of secular laws as well, because if you go back to, I mean, think how many people were in Egypt when the Hyksos Israelites left Egypt, 1 million people went. So that's less than half a population. So I mean, I would have thought they would have needed a lot of secular laws as well, and so and I think it's inevitable that you're going to have a lot of secular laws when you get large populations. But what I think what has happened is over time, we the people have forgotten that the power resides in us collectively. That those laws can only be enforced with our cooperation and consent. And people have become distant from politics, so they don't keep an eye on it. They don't watch it. They don't they might be upset with something they see, but they don't actually take action collectively, and over time people have felt more and more powerless, so that's carte blanche to the people who think they've got the right to keep putting these more and more draconian laws and rules on us. They know that we're not going to do anything about it, so I think really we've got nobody to blame but ourselves. But I do agree there are far too many. The legal system is so complicated. I mean, I know the tax system here is so complicated. It is just unbelievable. And there's pushes to simplify it massively. So but a lot of laws I know aren't even enforced anymore. They're old laws still on the books. They've just never been redacted. Um, so I don't know. I think I see it from a lot of different angles, but at the end of the day, if people are unhappy, then it's up to us collectively to get together and utilize our authority and power as the people who pay for and vote for and who upon whose mandate they act. Um, it's us who can turn to the politicians and say no if we really felt strongly enough about it.
I know there's a lot of talk that, about giants in the land and all of this stuff. Okay. Um,
Mm.
to me, when I think of the giants in the land that makes people feel small, I think of governments, the very governments ruling over us with an iron fist. And, uh, we we need to come to the understanding that we are free, we are co-creators, we are manifesting, we're here to have our experience. Express yourself. And when we peel back all the layers, the gifts that we have in each and every single one of us, and the abilities that we have, and there's no way, I haven't met not one person when they pop out the other side of this journey experience that wants to harm any other person. Most of them actually get so extreme with loving everything with the breath of life in it, they won't even eat meat anymore. So, how can people think that we need laws over us? The laws kill us. Okay. And it's the freedom that's coming, back into our remembrance of who and what we are, that is going to be the most liberating thing for mankind. We'll see it manifesting in the world around us. I know when I see outside now, it's so beautiful now. Hey Mel,
Mm.
what do you have something to say you want to say online about synchronicities? Gotcha, girl.
First of all, I'd just like to respond a sec to what something you just said, and then I know what you mean.
No,
I'll talk
I'm
about that
kidding.
because you said something about we need laws because most people are loving and kind. The problem is though they're not yet. There was an incident in my city, I think 2 nights ago, and I think it was three teenage girls were bullying a girl in their school who had learning disabilities, and they came to her home. Her mum and her were home, and they wouldn't let her out. And this is only about 3 miles away from me. And obviously, she wouldn't go out because these girls obviously wanted to physically harm her. Um, so instead, they killed her cat on her doorstep. Um, Now, the problem is there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, and there's a multitude of different reasons for this, but there are a lot of people who have serious issues, mental health issues, and there's a you can talk about sociopathy, you can talk about narcissism, you can talk about various forms of psychopathy, but for whatever the reasons are, there is a growing proportion of our population who struggle with these things. And tying to that poverty and the resultant high levels of crime, I think we do need laws. We do still need laws. Now, we could argue that, well, if they improved the education, if they improved the food, if they improved this, if they improved that, that would all go down. And that's absolutely true. But why are we waiting for somebody else to do that? There's more of us than there are but the elites. And there's no point us just waiting and saying, no, they should do that, they should do that, they should do that. When we're not prepared to do anything ourselves to try and make the world a better place. But I do think at the moment we do need laws because look at America. How many people in America? About 35 million, isn't it? Something
Uh,
along like that. 35 million, I think, in the United States. I mean, that's a lot of people. And the statistics are something like, I don't know, 10%, maybe even 20% of the population um, show some form of psychopathy. I mean, we do. I would not say that the humanity, is in any way yet ready to not have laws and rules to guide our behaviour. But I hope that we will get there. I do hope that. Right, synchronicities. Okay, so I said in your last show, I think it was your last one, oh, I don't see the number synchronicities. They don't bother me. And this morning I went to bed for a nap. And then I woke up and I reached over to my phone and I looked at my phone and it was 11:11. And in my head, I thought, oh, great. So now I'm going to start seeing these number synchronicities, am I? And then I heard, yes, you are, in my head, or yes, and a chuckle. And it made me laugh and I got out of bed. And so I just told Michelle this before the show and said, I'm going to start seeing them now. These number synchronicities everywhere. Here's me saying I never see them.
And that brings
So,
so much hope because of what you just were talking about, of people crazy and people violent and things like that. We are learning that we are manifestors. Hang on, I'll turn my camera on. We're manifestors. We are able to
yeah.
co-create here. And, out as life and death is in our tongue. So if we're saying that we've got crazy people, we've got murderers, we've got this, we are manifesting that. And as soon as people get it right in their head and know who and what they are, that stuff's going to go away. I think of the 100 monkey thing, when enough of us pop out the other side. I want to tell you, there's a gentleman that I met last night, Dead GPF, I think is who introduced me.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Okay. And just to listen to him, a very masculine man, to break down to tears that he's popped out the other side. Now, when we pop out the other side, we are like a child. We have to learn to walk, okay? But we go through all of these stages, and you're at the, well, what about the? I went there, been there, done that. And then I realized that the what about the was things that I was manifesting in my mind. So if I don't want the what about those, I need to stop thinking about them. I need to stop creating them. And as people get this profound understanding, in which you've done tests yourself, you said, you didn't see chemtrails, you thought about chemtrails, and then there was chemtrails. Guess what? Same thing happened. So if we're thinking that we've got evil people, corrupt people, just totally dark, mean, horrible, do horrible things, yes, they're going to be there. These things are going to happen because we're manifesting it. We need to take responsibility for our own tongue, the things we talk about, the things we look at. The eyes are the window to the soul. I had family members calling me so concerned about some horrific catastrophe that happened here where I lived. And I answered the phone. I had at least 5 of them call me. And I'm like, nothing happened here. Where are you hearing this from? It's beautiful here, So I am very, very cautious about what the news broadcasts out. I'm very, very cautious about anything that is put out there that I don't see myself. And I'm also careful about what I'm thinking about. And I'm very careful about what I say. There is power in our words. We could be inadvertently cursing people just because we don't understand the very power that we have within each and every one of us. And when I look at people now, I just see unlimited potential. I can also discern where they're at in their journey by the things they say. It's These gifts, you guys, are so beautiful. And I've done videos on this. I think it's called Which God Are You Serving? And I talked about the Old Testament God who is jealous and wrathful and murder and sacrifice. And okay. And then we've got the New Testament God who says, you forgive somebody 7 times 70 a day, who's all mercy and love. Well, I'll tell you what, God is the same. And that's in scripture too. God has never changed. There's no shadow of turning in him. All right. It's our perception that is in error. God is all love. God is unconditional love. God doesn't need worship. He doesn't need it. He's not an egocentric type of an God. Do you see what I mean? It is we fell into this state of confusion, and it seems like as we're coming out of Pisces and going into Aquarius, everything's being stirred up in us, and we're remembering who and what we are, and we're careful with our thoughts, we're careful with our tongue, we're also careful about what we watch and what we put in, because we're feeding ourselves that very information. And then when you're feeding yourself darkness and things and reading about darkness, then it's going into your heart and you're creating it, so then it can get worse. If you're feeding yourself good and positive, and I've got healthy soil, there's plenty of food, there's no lack here, the water is clean, guess what? That's what's going to manifest around you. Test things out yourself. Do these things for yourself in your own life and watch what's happening around you. You would be amazed at the things that you will find out. You'll be amazed with the gifts that are inside each and every single one of us. It's an amazing thing. Mel operates in several gifts. Um, that seems to be like right at the beginning of this journey. The gifts all get stirred up in us. And then you have to overcome the I'm special and I'm selected. I'm one of the 144,000. I'm Jesus. I'm John the Baptist. I'm Elijah. A lot of people get really confused, and they start, saying that their dreams are prophetic and putting out doom and gloom or rapture dreams. And I'm doing a sequence on dreams because I started having dreams and visions before I had what I call a Holy Spirit baptism. And what I found is, yes, my dreams were prophetic, but I also just did one today about dreaming of aliens. Okay. And I've been in 2 motor vehicle accidents. I'm feeling better than I ever have, but I still have some issues going on. So there's still some errors going on in here. So I'm still being worked on daily. So to go to sleep and have a dream where aliens are working on me, it's for me to figure out that, come on, get your head right, because Christ was able to do miracles. And what the guy was on his mat, okay, and couldn't walk, and another was blind since birth, and he opened his eyes, and the guy on the mat got right up and walked. So because of they understood the message he was telling them, that this stuff is in your head, you're manifesting it. So it's not because you've sinned. We're not being punished because we sinned.
No.
It is completely about an error in our mind. So, and as time progresses, we will be hearing more and more and more people talking the same way that I am, and understanding more and more daily, and getting more rooted and grounded, where you got to learn to walk as a baby. You fall down, you get back up, and you walk, and then you start toddling, and then you start running. And it is like that. I did a video called The New Earth, and I know that Mel has been very concerned about, she was like, I'll stay here in 3D to help other people. Well, I got to tell you, when I had that amazing thing happen, My fear was is that I was going to get raptured out of here and my loved ones weren't going to come. So if that's what happens in the beginning, even though we feel special and selected, but our heart is still going out for our loved ones and we care so much that we would be willing to stay behind to help these other people. That should tell you what the human heart is about. Pure love. We do care about each other. We do understand that the divine is in everybody. I don't care what the outer case looks like. And it also, that's another thing. And I've given you guys, I've done some videos about talking about my friends glowing and changing. Um, I've watched I consider Mel to be like my best friend online. I just love her so much. She's She's amazing. Now, as for my male friend, who would be my best friend online, that's Magi. Um, Whether he knows it or not, he's got a very special place in my heart. But with that said, I've watched her grow and she's watched me grow. And so we bounce things off of each other. We talk to each other. Neither of us dig our heels in because we realize that we have so much more in common than that ever will separate us. And the wisdom that comes out and the understanding, and it's like I think about, were churches even supposed to be built? When the apostles were sent out, they didn't go to set up churches. They went from city to city to give the good news. And when it took root, or when they said the Holy Spirit fell on people, they knew that they were starting their wilderness process and then they could move on. You see, I mean, you don't have to build a church. Now, if you want to do something for the community, make a community center. It doesn't have to be called a church with dogma. I would love to see a lot of community centers or building houses for people that, are less fortunate at this time. Because I know in my heart that we're going to be fine. Everybody's going to be fine because we have that desire and Mel has that desire. She was very strongly into Ubuntu. I'll have her talk a little bit about that with you guys here in a second. But in that community, everybody, shares equally and stuff. Well, that's where our heart is. We don't want anybody not having clothes, not having food in their stomach, not having a roof over their head. I want people to have creature comforts. If I'm allowed to have it, I want you to have it too. And I have to tell you, a lot of the creature comforts that I've got, like the swimming pool I have in my backyard, was like a gift. The money fell into our lap, something we didn't even expect. It just happened. And then, I mean, it's amazing, you guys. We can transform this world, but everything has to start with us. Um, like I say, in the micro, okay, manifests around us in the macro. So I'm going to let Mel tell you guys a little bit about Ubuntu and what type of community living that is. And you'll see the similarities in something that we could create when we get our own house in order. Everything else falls in place. It's just a beautiful thing. Mel, do you want to talk a little bit about Ubuntu?
Yeah, sure, okay. Ubuntu is a an idea. Um, it's the full name is Ubuntu Contributionism, and it was proposed and created by a South African man called Michael Tellinger. And you can go on YouTube, just put in Ubuntu or Michael Tellinger, and you'll find lots of videos of his talks talking about it. But it's basically the idea. It's a proposal, an end goal. His vision is of communities existing without money. So the way things would exist would be that when you were if you were living in a fully transitioned Ubuntu community, each citizen adult would be required to put in 18 hours of time a week. Now, 15 of those hours would be, this is the maximum number of hours. I mean, it would probably be less depending on the population and the community. But you would put in 15 hours doing whatever you wanted to do. So, say you wanted to be an artist, and you would train and be an artist. If you wanted to be a musician or a writer, or you wanted to grow food, or whatever you wanted to do, that would be your 15 hours. And 3 hours would be community service. So that would be, you could work in a community food hall, you could go and do some home care for people, or you could help keep the streets clean. Um, so the maximum number of hours a week would be 18 hours a week. And in exchange for that, everything would be free. So your housing would be free, your energy would be free, water would be free, food would be free, clothes, everything that we have today and more would be free. And the Michael Tallinger has proposed a model, a structured, tiered model of how to get from where we are now to there. So it's an idea he's proposed of how communities can just start transitioning along a path towards being a fully Ubuntu kind of community. And it's a very clever idea. If you read his book, then it's the way the model was proposed, it's very well thought out. It's certainly feasible. There's many places now that are taking this on and beginning the transition. There's a recently there's a town called North Frontenac in Canada. The mayor and the city councillors, or whatever you call them over there, they've agreed, and North Frontenac is in the process of transitioning into a Ubuntu kind of community. And it sounds impossible. It sounds like a fairy tale, like it would never happen. But there is no reason why it couldn't happen. If you just think of our technology is designed with profit in mind. Everything we buy has a planned obsolescence in it. It will break down just after the warranty runs out. It's designed to do that. Um, Everything is designed to do that because they want you to go and buy another one. So they're not interested in making things to last because there's no profit in that. But in an Ubuntu kind of community or a nation that was operating under this system, things will be made to last. Because in that system, there's no profit and there's no incentive for things to break down because that simply taxes the resources. So everything would be made to a good standard because it's in the interest of everybody for it to be made in a good standard. Actual productivity would increase because studies have shown that when people aren't working for wages, when they are paid enough money in our current system that all of their needs are met, their productivity increases higher than those who are given paid a basic wage and then given an incentive, a bonus incentive scheme. So that's been shown to be true, that productivity increases when all people's needs are met. Not just their needs, their wants as well, within reason. In a Ubuntu kind of world, there would be no ownership. Ownership would be the kind of ownership that your home would be yours as long as you live there. But if you moved away, you don't sell it because the home is still there and it's available for somebody else to use it. Um, so you could live anywhere you wanted. You could move to any Ubuntu community at any time. Um, and travel would be free. Everything would be free. um, so, because it's based on the idea that nobody can own the earth, it doesn't belong to us. So you don't own land, but you have that land as long as you need it. So, and under that kind of system, at the moment, prestige, and we have this societal model where if somebody is rich, they automatically get more respect. They've made it. They're successful. People want to be like them because that wealth means security as well as power. But in a Ubuntu kind of community, that would be different. The prestige would be given to those who did the most for the community. That would be the prestige. That would be what people wanted to do because there'd be no money. There'd be no real wealth. There'd be no point wanting to have
Equality.
free Ferraris on your drive. Yes, because cars are free. So you'd be laughed at. What would be the point? Um, so it's a completely new idea, and I think it's very exciting and a very exciting idea. And in his research, Michael Tanager is also, I don't know if archaeologist is the right word. I think it is. He's an archaeologist, and in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, it states how money was imposed by force on the people of Sumer about 6,000 years ago, or 6,000 BC, one of the two. Um, and apparently it was an instruction from the gods. So the priest kings of Sumer imposed it upon the people, this monetary system. It wasn't, we're told, we kind of grew up with the idea that it evolved naturally. But we now know that wasn't the case because the cuneiform tablets have been decoded, they've been translated. We now know that wasn't the case at all. It was an imposition and it was done by force. And the reason for it was because the population was getting too big and they were struggling to control people's behavior. And there's no better means to control large numbers of people's behavior than having a monetary system.
Hey, I want to take a
So,
moment to read some of the things in the chat and say hello to the people that
sure.
are here. We've got Obadiah. We've got Glowings Me. She said, I got rid of chemtrails, changed some local weather. It's amazing how powerful we have been allowed to be. We've got Char
Wow.
K. We've got, let's see, Wetum 90. Let me scroll down. We've got pre liminal. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. We've got the boom. Let's
Hey,
see.
Boom.
Yeah, Dead GPK. Thank you, Char. Thank you.
Hey, Dad.
We got Sup, um,
Hey, Sub.
Magi.
Hello,
Magi
Mando.
says spiritual rising. Nice. So, yeah, let's see. I think that, let me see, this one person. Okay. The Wetum 90 says, the news isn't negative, it's an ugly truth. It is what it is, and people that ignore the news are the same ones that talk SHIT about problems but have no solutions. See, and that's just like what I'm saying is people will talk, and when they speak, they kind of tell where they're at in their development. And, once you get this understanding, that's taking root. And that's why I'm so happy that I came across another, actually, I've come across a couple other channels that are actually been through their journey, their wilderness period, and popping out the other side. And the truth is being resonated out. Now, not everybody's ready for it. I agree. And there are different stages that everybody's at. And as you guys will see by the diversity in the people that I bring on here, that although I was raised with a Christian background, the people that I bring on did not or have a whole different spiritual upbringing, but there's a common thing going on with all of us. We're going through this process. Some have physical body aches, the dreams and visions, which I talked about. making chemtrails disappear, understanding our very abilities that we have within each and every one of us. So as I see it, as the numbers start to come in where the and I've said this before, when we get to the 51 percentile, that of people who are aware of the gifts and the abilities that they've had their entire life, that they were using out of ignorance. They didn't know how powerful that they are. They didn't know what they were manifesting. They didn't know what they were doing. But I think when we get to the 51%, it'll be like that 100 monkey with the washing the potato in the water. All of a sudden, all the monkeys started doing it because, as Mel said, there's a collective consciousness. We have our individualism, and we need to respect each other's sovereignty, and we need to respect each other's rights to our experiences. But on the same token, we're all fractaled out having these individual experiences. We all come back in the core. The breath of life that's in me is the breath of life that's in you. That very thing that's animating your body. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be having your experience at all. What I have found, whether they call it source, higher self, God, Gaia, it doesn't really matter. God doesn't care. He's not that egotistical, wrathful, creator that created this divine place for us to have our divine experience. He doesn't operate how we do in our lower estate. Okay. And I think of David and Goliath, we're looking at these huge governmental problems. And you got to realize, guys, it even says, in scriptures and in many different books, if even probably Mel will say in the Sumerian tablet, is the law kills. The law is what makes people want to do things, or that puts it in their mind, and then it manifests. So as we are becoming self-aware, and we're realizing the very power and authority that's been given to each and every one of us, then we need to watch our thoughts, take them into captivity, watch our tongue, because the things we're saying, we're creating. And you create it in the spiritual and you walk through it in the physical. So if you're wanting to experience something dark and scary, well, then that's what you're creating and that's what you're going to see. If you're wanting to see something beautiful and prosperous, then that's what you're going to create and that's what you're going to experience. But there's no wrong way. Nobody is in, the only error that we have is, the mistakes of our mistaken in our own identity, forgetting who we are and what we're capable of doing. Other than that, you guys, everything is okay. Now, I'm not trying to say that do what thou wilt. No, I'm trying to say when you pop out the other side, you have so much love and respect for the other people around you. You wouldn't hurt them. You don't have that desire. You want nothing but good things for people. But if you're in that competitive stage and that dog eat dog, step on whoever, as long as you're not hurting anybody, that's an error in our thinking. It's an error in our thinking that we need to be superior than the person next door or the homeless person on the corner. To think that we're superior than them is an error in our thinking. You want to go into gifts of the spirit, Mel? I know you've got a lot manifesting in you. Have you had dreams and visions? Yes, you have. You told me about it not right before we got online, on here, and now I know you're you're suffering from the synchronicities. But you also have a gift of spiritual energies, and I know you use the cards as a tool to help you refine that. And you're looking into doing the hypnotic, and you do group meditations. Give us a better idea of the gifts, because it seems like we will have a passion, a fire in our heart to go after our passion. to do that
Yeah.
very gift. So go ahead and let us know a little bit more about you. And you guys, just a reminder, her channel is in the show more notes, and we go over there and do roundtable panel discussions, and you know definitely go check out those shows. Some of them that are already posted are there's so much information in there, it just will blow your socks off. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I like you said, I'm just learning how to do tarot, and I'm doing group meditations, and I'm very interested in learning about quantum healing techniques. And as I've said before on your previous shows, I've had some experience with remote viewing, remote healing, and um, precog and things like that. I mean, it's the most important thing I think anyone could do is look after themselves, is to get themselves as healthy as possible. Watch what you eat. Try to protect yourself from negative energies, from the harmful effects of electromagnetic radiation. Because what Michelle was saying is true. It's you. The first step is you have to get your body as healthy as you can, because your body is your antenna. Your body is your physical structure, which is drawing in energy, which is feeding your spirit or soul or etheric layers, whatever term you want to apply, your higher self. So you need to have your body working as well as you can in order for that energy to come in and be modulated to the highest frequency, the most positive energy that you can, because that's what you're going to be transmitting out again into the world. And for a lot of people, they do need to avoid things like the news, because the news is overwhelmingly negative. And what that's going to do is it's constantly going to be chipping away at this positive energy that you're building within yourself. And until you've got to the point where you can literally manifest that positive energy, no matter what you're watching, no matter what you're reading, no matter what you're experiencing, then I think it's helpful for people to avoid the negative stuff in our reality, because imagine the news is a bit like a motorway. It's a bit like, I don't know what you call them over there, but a very busy road, and you're just learning to drive, and you've just passed your test, and the worst thing you could do is go straight onto the busiest road you can find when you've just passed you got your driving license. First of all, you practice in the quieter streets. um you get your confidence up, you get your self-assurance that you can handle whatever's going to come your way, and then you go on to the busy motorways or whatever you call them. So avoiding the news and programs like that is a bit like avoiding the motorways while you're just passing your test. You're just learning to drive. You're getting your confidence up, learning what you can handle and what you can't handle. Um, and then once you get to the point where you know that you can maintain or you can manifest this positive energy, no matter what you're watching, only then do you approach the news and the motorway again. But in order to get to that stage, then you need to try do whatever you can to keep yourself and your home, the energy in you and in your home, as positive as possible. And that means avoiding the stuff that's going to, as much as possible, bring your body down. And it's not easy. It's a long process, because most of us are addicted to substances that aren't good for us. You got things like caffeine, dairy, gluten, and sugar is a massive one. Tobacco, alcohol, various drugs. So it's a very long, slow process, and you don't want to do anything quickly because it's not easy. But
I'm going to interrupt you, Mel. I got a question in the chat
yeah,
before he comes out of view. Says, why does the true spirit self get in human form where there is evil and suffering and confusing deception everywhere? Well, the deception, you are a true spirit self. Okay, you're creating, okay, the way that I understand it, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you I don't know everything. So take everything with discernment, and take everything to either prayer or to introspect into yourself. Um, but we are spirit, okay? We create in the spirit, and then it manifests here on earth for us to have the experience with our sight, smell, taste, sound. Okay. And if we're still looking at things as evil and stuff, that means we're creating those so we can experience them. So that way, if you have that low experience, you can actually have a high experience when you pop out the other end. As for like substances and things like that, well, okay, with us all having the very divine spark within ourselves, we understand, or we come to that understanding within our mind. There's nothing here that's going to hurt us. Only way that it'll hurt us is if we think it will hurt us. I lost what was it? Now I've lost 54 pounds, and I have not went on a diet. I changed my perception of food. I ate it because I enjoyed it. I stopped thinking, oh my gosh, we got to look at the calories and all that. I just knocked all that off. Okay. My doctor said I needed to lose weight. And I was like, okay. Well, I changed my perception on food, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said nothing. If I want a McDonald's hamburger, I go get it. But the weight is falling off. It was my perception that was in error. So when we hear that things will have something bad happen to you, you got to make sure that you don't allow that to take root in your mind. Same with if you enjoy smoking a cigarette, just know in yourself that it won't hurt you, and realize that other people are co-creating around us also. And so they could, and I talked about this with karma. When you get angry at somebody, it's festering up within you, you're doing more damage. You could be doing 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, 10 times the damage to yourself. And then that other person may feel the energetic because the empathy part breaks open, but they'll feel it as a soft, but inside of you, it's doing all kinds of damage. So a lot of people could say smoking is terrible, okay? And they're throwing it at you like darts, but it's still only doing a soft impact, especially if you know in your mind that there's nothing here that can hurt you. Everything here is for you to experience it. I heard that from Chase on Everyday Masters. I will give credit where credit is due. And it resonated with me so much because of the outcomes that I'm going through from just a change in my perception. So I hope that answers your question.
can I respond to that
Well,
before you move on?
sure. To his question about the spirit,
Um,
you want me to read it again?
no. To what
Okay.
to what you've just said. Okay, I do agree with that. I think there's enough evidence to show that we are completely in control of our bodies. I mean, you've got people who can, manifest away cancers. You've got people who can do operations without actually doing the operation. You've got people, who can, make fire come out of their hands. I do agree that we have the potential to have complete control over every cell in our body, conscious control. But to me, I look at that like, okay, I know that I could become the best rocket science on the planet if I wanted to, but I can't do it right now. So my advice would be to people would be because most of us do still have these belief systems that these things will hurt us. So the best thing we can do is to try and avoid them. While we're going through this process of learning about our gifts, learning about what we're capable of, learning about individually what each of us can do. Um, but I think you're absolutely right. Nothing can really hurt us unless we allow it to. But I just don't think that most people are at that point yet. I know I'm not. So where I have complete control over every cell in my body, I'm just not there yet. I know that. So for
You're getting
me,
there, honey.
you know,
Fast. You're coming along.
well, hopefully
It
I
is
will get there, but
it is a
I
new
just know I'm not there yet.
and I'll tell you when you get this understanding, you'll fall back. We can let's look at it from 3D, 5D. Okay. You experience the 5D, but then we keep falling back into the 3D. Let's think of that as the perception, of understanding this new perception. You've got to lay that new foundation. It's got to spring up. And it is just like a baby learning to walk again. I fall
Hmm.
back into old patterns and have to remind myself daily to stay on that, in what's going on in my mind. And it becomes easier and easier and easier over time. And my physical condition is showing it. My, it's just that the world around me is showing it, like I said, in the micro, we get our houses in order first because this will also help address that question too. um, Unless we get our own house in order first, don't go trying to help and change and do all this, stuff by
Mm.
the sweat of your brow, because you're not doing anybody any favors until you get your own house in order where you can help somebody to get to the truth that is within them. Then their house will help them to at least get in the right direction to get their own house in order. This place will start to reflect what is going on within us, around us. It's not by labor, it's not by backbreaking labor. It is just a matter of perception, and people will be doing things that are in their passion. We are all creators. We are all here to have an experience. We start with the things that we have in common, and then we build from there. It's just a beautiful, wonderful experience. We've been on for over an hour. So if you've got final thoughts, and if the moderators can drop the Discord links in the chat, I'd be much appreciative. And Mel, I'll let you give your final thoughts, and then I'll zip it up.
Okay. Yeah, just yeah, no matter what's going on in your life, and Michelle's absolutely right. You need to work on yourself and your own home primarily first, because it's like if you're a carer for somebody, if you're not well and you make yourself sick, you're not going to be doing them any favors. And it's exactly the same principle when you're caring for Gaia, God, Earth, whatever you call this thing, what we're on, this reality. So, and we are all caretakers of it, because we are all manifesting it, we are all affecting it individually and collectively. So we need to take care of ourselves first, and only then, during that process, you will find where your particular skill set is strongest in how you are able to help you. And even if that's simply putting positive thoughts out and prayer out every day, I mean, that's wonderful, because that's going to do a lot of good for the world. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something practical. It could just be the way you're thinking, and just practice, and keeping your thoughts as positive as possible. And it is hard. It is really hard sometimes. Um, Meditate. Sit down and go through, visualize 10 things that you've got to be grateful for. Because we've all got 10 things to be grateful for in our lives, especially if we live in the Western world. Because as much as many of us are filled with this negativity about our governments and everything else, at the end of the day, we are very fortunate also to be living in the countries we're living in. And so just concentrate on 10 things that fill you with a sense of happiness and gratitude and love. That's 10 family members or whatever it may be. And whenever you start feeling that, things are getting on top of you, that you're stressed or you're anxious or you've watched something bad on TV or read something bad on Facebook, if it starts to get to you, all you've got to do is close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and go through each of those in turn. And by the end of it, you'll be feeling wonderful again. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes until you don't have to think of those 10 things because you will just better switch those feelings on consciously at any time. So just practice and practice. And yeah, that's it. And thank you for watching.
Okay, I want to read this that Glowing wrote, and it's beautiful. Step 1, love
Hey,
yourself.
Glowing.
Mel, don't make me mute you. Okay. She said, step 1, love yourself. It sounds small, but it's truly harder than it sounds. 2, love each other. Love is the opposite of fear. Now, this was an exercise that I had to do myself. I had to look in the mirror and give myself 5 compliments, even if they were small, until I got to the point where I was making eye contact with myself. And it does start with getting your temple in order. As he said, you get your own house in order and all else follows. So if you do start out with, just giving yourself 5 compliments, and you may look down a few times while you're in the mirror, but soon you will be able to make eye contact with yourself and, and realize the blessings like Mel just said. And, I'm here doing this outreach. I do want to get to know the people subscribing so we can have a relationship. Magi dropped the link for Flame. It's a chat forum. And, that's another place that we hang out and we talk to each other and we respect each other, and everybody has different backgrounds and different cultures, but we see the beauty in all of it. And it's just a wonderful thing. And this is a wonderful process that we're all going through. So, don't beat yourself up. I'm hoping that there's things that I'm putting out there, some tools to put in your toolbox that could maybe help you get through it, or maybe not fall in some of those holes and ruts that I did. But it is about a total renewment of your mind, and then everything else follows. Your heart and your mind gets to one, and then it flows out around you. Guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Share this message everywhere. If you think it'll benefit people, bring them on over. I've got lots of testimony that I'll be putting out of things that I've been through, and how I ended up overcoming them. It's always you go through the darkest before that light. And boy, oh boy, guys, when you pop out the other side, that light is so bright and so beautiful. You're amazed. It's just your cup runneth over. Your heart just, whew. And as some people think of the event, the new earth and old earth, and, it doesn't matter, or the rapture, or whatever you're thinking. We are the ones that are bringing that new earth. We are the ones that's bringing heaven to earth by remembering who we are and manifesting it around us. And I have not yet met one person who's been through this process that is wanting to hurt anybody. There's nothing but love. We want everybody taken care of. And I've met at least 5 other people online giving similar testimony of what the process that I've been through. Now, in our chat forum, there's tons of us. So come in. You're welcome. And it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're respectful and will listen to other people, we're there to listen to you also. So, with that, I want to say thank you guys very much. You never know when I'm going to be popping on live. I got to figure out how to use OBS while we're on Hangouts. I'll get it though. I'll figure it out. So, and please don't forget to subscribe to Mel's Table Talk. And for sure, I will be doing live streams on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock with at least 1 to 2 people on the panel, because I'm trying to get to know everybody as the channel is growing. So, I appreciate all the support everybody is showing, all the love and the kindness. And while I'm overcoming my fear of coming out, showing my face on camera and talking to you guys was a big undertaking for me. You guys are making it so easy and so nice, and I appreciate it. So, like, share, and subscribe. Peace. I'll talk to you soon.